There's been a bit of work done in the break, framing up these amendments into something that are a little bit more workable. So what we've got now is the substantive resolution on the table, moved by Jake and seconded by Tim. So that's the staff recommendation. And then we've got a series of amendments which are moved by Celeste and seconded by Mike. So the first of those, paragraph 4, is providing up to 20,000 to the Waihai Coastal Community Board and up to 20,000 to the Waikura Linwood Community Board. If that passes, it would have the effect of changing the 160,000 in the current staff recommendation to 180,000. So that figure actually would sit at 160 unless and until paragraph 4 passes, in which case it would change to 180. And then paragraphs 5, 6 and 7, resolutions 5, 6 and 7 pick up Yanni's original amendment. So asking the CEO to advise on scope and timetable to commission an external independent review. We've heard that that's already intended, so it's just requesting a report back on that, or advice on that. Requesting staff report back on options on the matters that have been raised around the clean-up on request service and internal property damage. We've already heard that that's work that to some degree is already underway, so we're just requesting a report back on that. And then noting that we'll get a report back on the social wellbeing response, including the health and wellbeing webinar, and any additional feedback. Of course, all of that work will have been done between now and the next report back in 2 weeks' time. So that would have been reported back anyway. It's just noting that to provide that additional level of reassurance.
Can I just have some clarification, please, Andrew? Is that
yeah,
okay?
Absolutely.
Up number 3, it says approves 180, and then it says on 4 to provide additional 20,000 to each of the community boards. That makes 220 altogether?
No, there's 20 in there already. So it's actually the effect of paragraph 4 passing is to add an additional 20,000 in total. So that would then bring resolution 3 up to 180. If resolution 4 doesn't pass, then 3 would remain at 160 as per the staff recommendation.
I don't understand.
No, number 3 says
Can
180.
I just assist members, please, because I think it is slightly confusing because we've got 3 and then 4. If we switch those around and say do number 4 as 3, saying that, and therefore number 4 would be, the allocation would be 180,000. So it flows.
That's right now.
That's
Number
it.
3.
Thank you.
But if the additional 20,000 doesn't pass, then it'll be 160 as per the staff recommendation. So we've got a clear choice. Are we adding an extra 20,000 or are we not?
Yep.
Yep.
Are we quorum?
Sorry,
I'm happy to incorporate this as part of the moving.
Are you happy to incorporate all of the amendments?
Yeah.
Yep. And Tim, you're happy with that as well? So we don't need to deal with them as amendments. We're just going to change. We need to vote on the 20,000 though, don't we? Or are you happy to? What you're saying is that you're happy for the resolution that you're moving and seconding to be 180,000, not 160. Yeah. All right. Okay.
can you just explain to me where the 20 is sitting in there?
So what we're doing
3
then?
becomes 4, 4 becomes 3.
All right. And Tim, you're happy with that? Yep. All right. So we're now.
3 becomes 4, 4 becomes 3.
Do you want to get Leah to explain where the extra 20 comes from?
Not the money tree. Can
you first of all clarify for me why there was 20 in the 160? I didn't get that.
We can explain that we'd already allowed for 10 per community board, and now it's gone up to 20 per community board.
We just need to switch them.
Well, it's unfortunate the way it's ended up now, because I was happy with the up to 160. Now, if I vote against the number 3, there'll be nothing. So I wasn't supportive of it going up. There's already 10 for each community board. I thought that was sufficient.
And that's fine, you can do that, Pauline, and therefore if the majority are in that space, it would revert back to 160.
So what you're doing in the event that paragraph 4 doesn't pass, you're foreshadowing a further resolution that it be 160.
Paragraph 3.
Oh, in the event that 3 doesn't, yeah. So you would vote against paragraph 3. So if you don't agree with that, you would vote against paragraph 3, and that would have the effect of it. So if I take paragraph 3 separately, and then if 3 didn't pass, 4 would go back to 160.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'll deal with paragraph 3 separately.
Did you want me to talk about where that fund's coming from? So,
Yes, please.
so obviously, there's no budget for this, so we're in a new annual plan, so we would have to fund it out of our surplus from last year.
So we've got funds to do that with, but it's important for us to know where it's coming from.
Correct, but
let's step
it's
down.
always, there's always an opportunity cost, right? So when you fund this from surplus, that surplus would have normally been used to repay debt, which in effect reduces rates going forward.
Which essentially means that this amount is debt funded.
Correct,
Yeah, by implication.
if it's used.
Whether it's used or not, it's budgeted for then, so you can't use it for anything else.
All right. Yanni.
I just wanted to be really clear with, I guess, from staff that the additional amendments that have been put forward by myself or Mike and Celeste now incorporated, the staff are comfortable with what's being proposed and recognise that, that would be part of the report back.
Sorry, is this debate or are we?
No, I just
It's a
wanted,
question.
I just
Let's put it a different way. Assuming all of this passes, there's nothing that we're approving that staff would be uncomfortable with.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. The paragraph 4, because original is 160K, but now it's 180K. Whether already covered paragraph 3, each community board is give the 10K
So Jimmy,
additional.
we've already covered this several times. I'm going to put paragraph 3 separately. If paragraph 3 passes, then paragraph 4 would be approved at 180. If resolution 3 doesn't pass, paragraph 4 would go back to 160.
Okay, thank you.
It's exactly the question that Pauline was asking. That's fine. Thank you. All right, so we're now in a position then, with this moved by Jake, seconded by Tim, to move into debate. Let's do that. All right, so is there any debate? Pauline.
Yeah, this is maybe a wee bit hot under the collar today, so I probably shouldn't speak. But anyway, I just feel that we've been dabbling into operational quite a bit today in our questions and our treatment of staff, and I really think, following the fantastic presentation that we've had, that we can see things have changed. Things seem to be stepping up. And I think we're getting real progress. We know that the odour is going to diminish considerably. I don't support, so I want to thank staff for everything they've done here. And the energy and work and personalised service that's going into this situation has been admirable. And I know we've got off to a slow start, but I think that we're really getting the hang of it now. A lot of money has gone into this so far. The fact that 10,000 from each community board was already in that one up to 160,000, I think the 10,000 per board is a good amount of money, considering our full discretionary only sits around 50 grand for a whole year. And so also with number 6, staff have told us that a lot of the houses, or probably most of them, will clean themselves. And with the weather, it will wash off, or people will do it with their normal spring cleaning. I'm just worried that if we go, hey, let's set up a free house cleaning service, who's not going to want that? So let's leave it for people to come and ask. Staff have told us repeatedly, we are here to help, we will help. Come and ask. I don't want to see that as a formalised resolution saying to people, come and we'll wash your house, because it's not a bottomless pit of resources here. We're struggling, and that money will come from other budgets, possibly concerned with water quality. So I'm really not supporting 6, so I will ask you to put that separately, and 6B, and I won't be supporting 3, because that 10,000 per board is already contained in the up to 160, which up to 160, staff gave us advice the other day that it'll be plenty, it may not even be used. So why we're trying to increase that now, I don't know. Let's see how it runs. We know we've got the mayoral fund if we need that. I think we're covering this really well, and I just advise caution on throwing even more money at this. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So just picking up from that, I'll put 3 and 6A and B separately. That's fine. Thank you. Anne.
Yeah, thank you. Completely agree with Pauline's statements. I think, to me, it feels as if there is the resources there for people to use. It seems to be that people are finding it difficult, some people are finding it difficult to access that, despite huge efforts by our comms to overcome those barriers. So the challenge is for community boards and elected members to get out and actually help people to connect with the resource that is there. So I believe confidently that there is resource for people to assist them, to support them. And even though we had a bit of a slow start with the comms, I think we've absolutely, the organisation has stepped up amazingly to make sure as many people know the information as possible. Those who have missed out, once again, it is the job, I think, of elected members to get out there and connect with them. So I will, along with Pauline, not be supporting 3 or 6A or B. Thanks.
Thank you. Yanni.
Thank you. Wow. Bit shocked by those comments. For some of us as local elected members who have been raising this pretty much since the day of the fire, to connect the concerns of local residents and the community with council, it's pretty, I find pretty affronting to hear that we just need to do more work as elected members to raise the concerns and get people the support. The reality is, through no fault of a deliberate act by this council or by the people in the community, we had an accident, which was the fire at the Christchurch Wastewater Treatment Plant. That fire has had a huge negative impact on the well-being of our local community and unfairly on existing communities who have dealt with a number of odour issues and stench issues in the past. A community who was already stressed out for many other things, but compounded with the rotten stench that went through those neighbourhoods for months and months. I think it's entirely fair that the council takes a responsibility to help deal with the consequence of an accident that occurred at our treatment plant and the impact that that has had on our community. This is not just a local issue. This wastewater treatment plant supports the entire city. So it's to our benefit that it can continue to operate, and it is completely unfair that the neighbouring communities should have to deal unfairly with the burden for its continued operation that has existed. I want to focus on the positive thing in the social response plan, or the social response that the staff have brought to us today. That is, we are responding to providing access to, at no cost hopefully, or predictably, for people to access GPs and wellbeing support. And I think that we should commend staff for getting the partnership in place to enable one of the barriers that we know has been reported at community meetings for people has been the access to GPs and mental health support. So there is some real positives in what's being agreed to today, but I think there's some gaps as well. And the gap to me is around the discoloration, but I appreciate we can't make the straight decision today. Staff has said we need to consider options, but there is power in people coming together to help those people that are adversely impacted, whether it's through community cleanups, like we've seen with the Student Volunteer Army, or whether it's about council being morally responsible for taking on the help that people need so that they don't feel forgotten and they don't feel that they have a sense of an unfair burden. So I urge you to support these resolutions today. It's not making the decision today, it's simply enabling staff to do the work, to come back and report back after we've had the health webinar to us on what further things could happen to support our local community.
Thank you. Anybody further? Celeste.
Thank you. I just wanted to start with acknowledging the work of staff and also the community reps that have been giving up their time on a weekly basis, unpaid, to give feedback on this plan. you know, they deserve that recognition because, you know, they're doing this on top of already busy lives and they're already impacted by this disaster and other things which we've heard this morning within their own communities. So many of them are really already struggling. So I guess just to sort of urge you to consider that in terms of how we can support communities going forward, this is a relatively small contribution. And I would hate to think that this is the first example of stadium brain rationing, where we start saying we can no longer afford to pay for communities to get the support they need. So I just want you to take into consideration that this plan has gotten a lot of feedback from residents and representatives who have given up a huge amount of time, and they've fed back to us as councillors what they want, and that's why we've put forward these resolutions. They haven't come up out of thin air. They've actually been based on the feedback of the community reps who've been appointed to that panel and have requested that we raise these issues today. So once again, I urge you to support these resolutions, which are, as my colleague Yanni says, they're actually just, many of them are just noting provisions, so they're pretty inconsequential. The funding itself is up to, and that can come back, you know, that is really not necessarily allocated if there isn't a need there, but it means that we can act now, and that's what we need to do after so many months of delay. So thank you.
I'd like to start off by noting the considerable progress which has been made. The clearance of the material from the trickling filters ahead of the targets is a real achievement, and I think it's important that we recognise that. There was always some nervousness as to whether those targets were too ambitious, and it's great that we've actually managed to achieve the clearance well within the targets that were set. So that's a real achievement and should be called out. Similarly, there was always a degree of anxiety and nervousness around the biological processes that needed to occur with the new processes that have been put in place in the ponds, and it's great to hear positive feedback on that today as well. So there's a lot positive that we've heard in the presentations this morning, but I also note, coming from the deputations and coming out of some of the questions around this table today as well, there remains considerable anxiety in the community around a number of matters, and there clearly remains an absolute need for clear, effective and timely communication. And we've heard a lot about that this morning as well. But I'd like to acknowledge the work that staff have done and continue to do in all of those spaces. But really, echoing Celeste's comments, I'd like to commend the community and the elected members involved for the considerable amount of work that's been done at the community level as well. And that's brought a lot of the questions and indeed some of these amendments to the table today. And that's grassroots democracy and representation at work. So I'm going to be comfortable supporting Resolution 3, noting the words up to. It means that the funds are there if we need them. And I think it's right that we make sure that sufficient funds are there and available without impacting on the community board's ability to expend those funds which were already there for their communities as they normally would without being impacted by this. And I note on paragraph 6, which has been the subject of some discussion and debate, that what we're doing is requesting staff report back on options. We're not requesting that A and B happen. We're asking for a report back so that we consider whether we should approach them in this way or how we should approach them. It's just a deeper dive into matters which are of concern. And it certainly isn't lost on me that these amendments have been worked up by the two councillors who are most closely involved with this work and most closely connected with the affected community. And that's certainly my motivation in wanting to support the amendments today as well. Is there any further discussion? Nothing further. I'll go through these one at a time in that case. So if we come to the top, I can put 1 and 2. So if I put 1 and 2 together, all those in favour say aye. Against?
Aye.
That's carried. Okay, item 3, I'm going to put separately on its own. So all those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Against? That's carried. So that means item 4 remains at 180. So I can put 4 and 5 together. So all those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. So I'm now going to put 6A and B together. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
So how many was that against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 against.
Oh, no, one online as well.
And 1 online, so 5 against. How many have we got online? 3. That's 5 all. So that doesn't pass.
6, isn't it? Can we just be clear, because we're not, as to who has voted which way?
All right, can we take a division on that, just to be absolutely clear?
Okay, noting the Mayor is an apology. The Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor Chen?
Yes.
Councillor Chu?
That's a yes. Is that a yes, Councillor Chu?
No.
Yep.
Noting that Councillor Coker is an apology. Councillor Cotter?
No.
Councillor Donovan?
Yes.
Councillor Davidson?
Yes.
Councillor Galloway? Noting Councillor Goff is not here. Councillor Johansson?
Yes.
Councillor Keon?
No.
Sorry, that was a
No.
no. Noting Councillor MacDonald and Major are not here. Councillor McGowan?
No.
That's a no. Councillor Scandrett?
No.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against. 4, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 saying no.
It's carried.
So it's
So
carried.
6 in favour, 5 against.
Yes.
So that's carried.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm in favour.
That's right.
Yep. So 6 in favour, 5 against. So that's carried. And then item 7. All those in favour say aye. Against.
Aye.
That's carried. Thank you. All right. So once again, thanks to staff for all of the work done, for a very thorough presentation, and for detailed answers to questions. We appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. All right. Okay. So now all that remains for me to do is to close the meeting.
But one other, oh, no, there wasn't a recommendation.
So we're done, aren't we? There was no recommendation on item 22. We've dealt with amended recommendations on item 23. That's all done. So we're done. So all that remains now for me to do is to close the meeting.
Did you do the PX last week? There's no PX, is there?
No.
No, that's
There
right.
was nothing to put on 22. It was, there's no receives the presentation, none of it. No, there was no resolution. Kia whakairea te tapu, kia watea e ta ara, kia tūriki whakataha ai, kia tūriki whakataha ai, homie, hui, tai ki. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.